Okay. You guys, let me tell you one thing about Chanel in Venice. The Chanel boutique in Venice, and I always say, if you're gonna buy a Chanel bag, buy it in the Chanel boutique in Venice, because Venice is all about velvet, mostly about velvet. Moire fabric. If you know vintage Christian Dior Poison boxes, the green ones, they have that watery effect on them. That is a moire silk that was photographed. It gives that effect of wood and water trickling over fabric. Venice is famous for moire, for velvet, for silk. They're not famous for tweeds, but they're famous for their textures. So in 2016, when I went to visit Venice, I went to the Chanel boutique. I bought myself a jersey, wool jersey mini square bag. They were the only ones in all of Europe who actually had it, because they're specialized in fabric. So if you go to the Chanel boutique in Venice, chances are you're going to find the exact fabric bag you're looking for. Don't go to the Chanel Venice boutique to buy a leather bag. Buy a leather bag in your boutique in whatever city of the world you want. Venice is about fabrics. And let me tell you a story about Venice. When you think about Venice, David Lynch with Twins Peaks. Seriously, Dacob? David Lynch and Twin Peaks. The red room with the velvet red curtains falling. That is a vision of Venice. I'm sure subconsciously he thought of Venice when he developed the red room for Twin Peaks. By the way, all my Tier 2 members and Tier 1 members, actually, both members, I think, get, all my members throw a red room for all the other viewers so they know what we're talking about. The red room emoji, one of the exclusive emojis on my channel, those red curtains are velvet, and that zigzag floor. Venice is famous for black and white, not zigzag, but squares. But that's a transformed, dream-like state of Venice. The sculpture he has in the red room, it's all a Venetian, decadent, Byzantine / Baroque style. Now, just to rein this back in and connect it even more to Chanel, when I did the review of Paris Venice, the fragrance, I used a painting that had a painting of Venice with a woman from the Byzantine time, I think it was, or was it Baroque? I can't remember anymore. But she was stepping out of one of the churches, all dressed in red, draped in red velvet. She looked like Laura Palmer took the drapes of the red room and draped herself with them. Venice is all about texture and heavy materials, beautiful fabrics. Now, here comes the story about Venice. And after I tell you this story, you're definitely, if you ever go to Venice, I'm sure you're going to remember this and think about it if you go to the Chanel boutique, and you will look out for a velvet Chanel bag. When, in the Baroque times, now envision Caravaggio, in one of his paintings, it could be, usually, I mean, it could be the chopped off head of the Medusa. It could be Esther, was it Edith? Esther cutting off Holofernes's head and kind of delivering it on a platter. So envision these, which we're used to it today. Today, we watch horror movies, we watch thrillers, we watch the news, for heaven's sake, and we see blood all over the place. Like, we're not shocked as we used to be. But Baroque times, there was no television, no photography, no nothing. There were paintings. And the Baroque, especially with Caravaggio, introduced a concept of gore, the aesthetic of gore. Now envision the patrons of the arts in Venice. In Venice back then was extremely rich and opulent. They were buying art, spending in architecture, opulence, decadence, gold, heavy drapes and curtains, dresses. The women were dressed. They had emeralds hanging off their ears, their neck. Pearls from all over the world were imported. Venice was a port, after all. From all over the world, textiles and materials and exotic materials would be coming through Venice, and the rich ladies of the salons in Venice would be wearing all of that. It looked like a circus. Elegant circus, the circus nevertheless. Now envision them starting to collect art and starting to collect Caravaggio. Now, when they had their little soirees that would go on for hours and days sometimes, they would keep eating. Those were different times. for these banquets, they had special chairs developed that had holes underneath them. So you just sit on it. You sit there for hours, you keep eating, and then if you have to take a dump, you just do it there, and you have servants cleaning underneath you. I mean, different times, you guys. Different times. Wonderful, incredible things to learn about. But we're getting to the fabrics. So you have these soirees with these dinners, and they take you to these... Me as a vampire, I'm old enough, I've lived there. They take you to these art galleries, these private art galleries. There's no electricity, okay? Curtains, heavy velvet curtains draped on the sides all around this gallery space. It's nighttime. We have been eating already for 20 hours. Everything is lit only by candlelight. Candlelight that always vibrates because the flame flickers. So you have these shadows cast across these velvet curtains all over the room. You have these pedestals with sculptures out of marble staying, you know, all over the place. You got paintings hanging from the walls. So you're walking through these galleries. And this is the beginning of Baroque, well, the height of Baroque. So all of these collectors are showcasing their prized possessions, usually older paintings from other times when there was no gore yet. So you walk through these galleries and you see beautiful paintings of ladies in poses and this and that, and everything is and the symmetry and proportions of the body and everything is amazing. The colors and everything is only seen through candlelight. Very important that I'm stressing on this candlelight because there's a lot of shadows. Baroque, and in fact, the paintings, Caravaggio is the most famous exponent in that respect. He worked with shadows, light and shadows, absence of light and total overexposure of light, because he knew that these paintings would be also shown in these dimly candlelight lit environments. Now imagine all of these ladies of the court or the riches, they're just going, being guided through these galleries to see all these paintings with the flickering lights. And always in the Baroque time, the time of Caravaggio, the owners of these galleries would always keep the best for last. So usually envision that you're walking through this gallery, and at the bottom of the gallery would be a heavy velvet draped curtain. So you're walking through the gallery, seeing everything, and then when you arrive to the end, they would kind of open this last velvet curtain. Everything is super dark, just candlelights. It opens up, and these women mostly, because the men were a little bit more used to blood because of the wars, these women would be confronted for the first time ever in their lives with a cut head bleeding, the blood dripping out of Holofernes or the Medusa by Caravaggio. There are literary portrayals and depictions of what it felt in the Baroque time to see this for the first time. So could you imagine? It was all about the shock value. Baroque is about the affect. So you're not effect, affect, A-F-E-C-T or double F. It's a thing, look it up. It's a Baroque thing. So the curtain opens and they see the gore. They would faint. In these galleries, they kept salts to the side, hidden, because these women, they would see these shocking, aggressive death scenes, and they just go, oh! And off they went, and they were ready to catch them and put the salts under the nose to wake them up again. Those velvet curtains were the only layer between that shocking art for that time and our emotions. So poetic. This is the symbology of velvet and Venice. This is why David Lynch uses velvet red curtains in Twin Peaks. He never talks about it, but it has to be the reason, because those velvet curtains hide the pain, the misery, the horror that's behind. And when they lifted that curtain, you see the truth and you collapse. You cannot stand it. So going to Venice for me is always about fabrics. It's always about fabrics. So Think about that. I know I told you at the beginning of this video, you're never going to forget once you hear this story. When you go to Venice, observe the fabrics. And even if they don't have fabrics, observe the drawings in these different places and museums of fabric. They would draw tapestries and fabrics all over the place. So yes, you go to Venice to Chanel, you best believe you're going to buy a fabric bag, because that is quintessentially Chanel. And when you wear that fabric bag and you open it, you have that feeling of the horror that's hidden inside, because the truth is always scary. Your truth is always inside your bag. You use your bag to conceal who you are. It carries your essentials, but it's essentially you. You are in that bag, and that bag made out of velvet is your curtain. It protects your horror from the rest of the world. That's my Chanel in Venice. I hope you liked this video. If you have, please do thumb it up. Subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Coco Chanel is in my house, all written together. Instagram profile. You can also follow me on my other Instagram profile dedicated to Coco Chanel's life, called Coco Chanel Privé, or follow me on superdacob, all spelled together, also on Instagram. And push the join button next to the subscription button on YouTube. Become a member today, gain access to extra perks. You can also join me on Patreon. Thank you so much. Until next gory time, never forget to never give up on velvet love.